Hi there, my friends. It's Laura the Teach. Now, you may have a clock in your house, and it may plug into the wall, and it may just have numbers on it. That's called a digital clock, where it lights up and it's bright, but it doesn't have a face to it. Today, we're going to talk about what a face clock looks like and how we can tell time by the hour on a face clock. So I drew two face clocks here. Some of my students don't even have face clocks in their home. And most of the watches that you might wear, or the time that you see on a cell phone, for instance, or even on a stove, does not have a face clock on it. It has the digital format. So a lot of people don't know how to tell time accurately on a face clock. Now, I don't have all of the lines that you normally see on a face clock because we're just going to talk about clock and then also how clock is divided up into quarters. So let's look at the bottom first. I have numbers written down: 1, 4/4, and 1/4. These two numbers are called fractions. And we have fractions in a lot of the things that we do. When you cook, 3/4 of a cup, 2/3 of a cup, 1 tablespoon, 1/2 teaspoon. Those are all parts of fractions that we use when we cook. If we are looking at dividing up something equally among you and your friends, you use fractions when you do that. If you have a pan of brownies, and there's 4 of you, and you want to make sure that you each get the same amount, you would divide the brownies into 4 equal pieces so that each of you would get 1 large piece. When you're telling time, we can divide the clock into fourths. And so 1/4, 1/4, means there are 4 pieces, and one of these sections is considered one of the 4 pieces. It's a fourth. A fourth can also be called a quarter. Think of money. You have quarters, which are the bigger silver pieces. You've got your penny, your nickel, your dime, and your quarter. A quarter, it takes 4 quarters to make $1, 25, 50, 75, $1. 4 quarters to make 1 whole dollar. It takes 4 quarters of an hour to make 1 whole hour. When the hand goes all the way around the clock 1 time, it's an hour. The big hand, I should say, the minute hand. So there's 2 hands on a clock. There's the smaller hand that points to one of these numbers. These numbers only go with the small hand, the hour hand. The larger hand, the minute hand, tells you o'clock and then the other times on a clock. So normally your clock would have little tiny lines going around it. We'll get to that in another lesson. But today we're just going to talk about o'clock. When you have o'clock, all right, the big hand, the minute hand, always goes up to the 12 area. There's going to be actually a line above the 12. This minute hand is not pointing to the 12 because remember, these numbers on the clock that you see only go with the smaller hand, the hour hand. So you can think of it, the hour hand says, those are our numbers. Hour, the hour hand. And so that kind of hour is spelled H-O-U-R. Not to be confused with O-U-R, which is if I said it's our, you and me. But it's kind of a play on words to help you remember. The hour hand, it's our numbers, the hour hand. The minute hand is the larger hand, and it actually is pointing to the lines that go around the clock. Or if there are no lines on a face clock that you might see, it's talking about what the numbers are going around the clock, not these 12 numbers within the circle. So for o'clock, when this big hand goes all the way around the clock, one whole time, we have 1 whole hour. And it's gone 4 of the 4 quarter hours all the way around. It's gone 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters. 4 of the 4 quarters is 1 whole hour around the clock. So let's say I want to say that it's 3 o'clock. Remember, the minute hand, the larger hand, always points to the line up above the 12. Our hour hand points right to the number, but it's small, doesn't go all the way. So that says the hour points to 3 o'clock. And we write it like this, 3:00. So we use something called a colon, those 2 dots, to separate the hour from the minutes. So 3:00. Now I'm going to erase my 3 because I'm going to keep telling o'clock. And I'm going to erase my hour hand. So let's say I wanted to show you 7 o'clock. O'clock is always way up at the top above the 12, and 7 is here. So my hour hand, the smaller hand, is going to point to the 7, and we're going to write 7. The minute hand, the bigger hand, is pointing to actually the line above the 12. There are 60 minutes, believe it or not. There's going to be 60 lines going around this clock. We'll get into a clock with those lines at another lesson. But there are 60 minutes around the clock. But when we get to 60, we don't say 60, we say o'clock. So we would say 7, those 2 little dots, 00, o'clock. This means we have no minutes, and we have 7 hours that have passed by. Let's try it again. Let's erase that. All right. What's a time you want to try? 10? Okay. So o'clock is up above that 12, and our hour hand, the small hand, is going to point toward the 10. So we say our hour first. Smaller, think of little kids go first before their parents. So our small hand, we always read first. It says 10, and then our o'clock, 10:00. No minutes, it's right at o'clock, but the hour says 10. Let's try another one. Let me erase this. All right, what hour do you want to try now? 5, okay. So I'm going to draw my hand, the small hand, the hour hand, because remember, 1 through 12 on the clock are only hours. They are not the minutes. They're only hours. It's our number. So we have the hour shows 5. I'm going to write 5, and I have no minutes. I hit the 60 minutes around the clock for the hour. So 5:00, 00. No minutes, 5 o'clock on the dot. Let's do one more. All right. Ooh, that's a good one. 12. So look at this. With 12 o'clock, the hour hand, I kind of drew it a little bit. Normally the minute hand and the hour hand would be in one, and you wouldn't be able to see the hour hand very well. But the hour hand would be pointing to the 12, and the minute hand is pointing to that space above the 12 on the clock. I always read my hour first. Hour numbers. Which of these numbers is the hour hand pointing to? It's pointing to the 12. So my hour is 12. I have no minutes right now. I'm right at o'clock. So I write it as 12:00. 12 o'clock. So you, I bet, could read o'clock on any face clock that you saw. Remember, when you're dividing up a clock, we look at quarter hours. So if my minute hand went from o'clock down to the 3 area, remember it's not on the 3, it's on a space outside of the 3 for the minutes. Okay, this would be 1/4 of the hour. If it moved down here to the space outside by the 6, it would be 2/4 of the hour, or half an hour. All right, if we moved another quarter up to the space by the 9, it would be 3/4 of an hour. And we move all the way up our 4th quarter, and we're back to o'clock. Now, telling time, counting money, measuring things on a ruler, your fractions when you're cooking, they all relate to each other. You're going to see a lot of things that parallel or seem the same in our lessons. So what I'd like you to do is draw yourself a little clock. It's not that hard to do. Can you draw a circle? If you can't draw a circle, then maybe you could trace the bottom of a cup. But if you draw a circle, and mine isn't perfect, do a dot in the middle, put a 12 and a 6, 3 goes here and 9 goes here, and then you can fill in the rest of the numbers. And practice telling time by o'clock at home. Now I'm going to go on to another page that we're going to practice telling time by o'clock. So here's a page with some clocks, and it tells us the first one. Remember, the hour hand, the smaller hand, points to one of these numbers, hour numbers, and it's pointing to the 3, as you can see. And when the hand goes up, right in the space by the 12, it says o'clock. So this is 3 o'clock. Now here they wrote the word o'clock out. Look at that. It's O apostrophe, then CL blend, A short O, and CK. O'clock. That's how you spell it. So look at this one. What time do you think that is? Look at the hour hand that says hour number. Very good. It's on the number 5. So we write 5, and then what is the hand, the minute hand, near the space of the 12? O'clock. So they wrote o'clock. Good. So that time shows us 5 o'clock. Look at the next clock. Look at the small hand, the hour hand, hour numbers. What number is it pointing to? Good job, 8. And then the minute hand, the big hand, going up above the 12. What does that stand for? Good job, o'clock. So this is 8 o'clock. Now, you tell me what the next one is. Good job, you're so smart. You're right, it's 11 o'clock. Now this next part wants us to draw the hands on the clocks to show the time. And they gave us the time underneath each clock. So the first one says 4 o'clock. So what do we need to do? Good job. You can draw either one. You can do that minute hand up past the 12. And then where's your hour hand going to be? Good. Pointing to the 4. All right. So the next one, what time does that say? 10 o'clock. What are you going to do? Yep, you're going to do your minute hand up to the space by the 12, and then you're going to draw your smaller hand pointing at the 10. Good job. All right, let's look at our next one. 1 o'clock. Where are we going to put those hands? Good job. You're going to put the o'clock, the minute hand, up towards the 12, and then the hour hand, the small one, by the 1. All right, and the last one, what does that say? 6 o'clock. You got it. Now this one's going to look a little unusual too. We put our minute hand up to the space by the 12, But then we draw our small hand, our hour hand, pointing at the 6. It almost looks like it's a straight line going up and down. 6 o'clock. Now on the bottom of this, we want to match the times. And it has the times written out, as you can see. 12 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. They did the first one for us. They said that this is what? Good, 2 o'clock. So they drew a line going to that. What's that second clock show us right there? What's the hour hand on? The 9. So what time would that be? Good job. It's 9 o'clock. So we draw a line to match that. Look at the next one. Where do you see that hour hand? It's on the 7. Good. So what time is that clock? 7 o'clock. And then the last one, we did one like that before. It was a little tricky. Where's that hour hand? Yeah, 12 o'clock. So we draw a line to match that. So let's just do a little review of what we've already done. We had these clocks, this clock, and remember, this was the 12 o'clock that we did. But when you're looking at time, the hour hand is the small hand that shows one of these numbers. The minute hand is the bigger hand that tells the time that goes around the clock, not one of the numbers inside of the clock. So in this case, the hour hand is pointing to the 12. The minute hand is the space above the 12, which means o'clock. So this time is 12 o'clock. I'm hoping that makes sense for you. We'll do some more time in another session. Great job.